far been able to get from understanding a bit about the monad. It goes further. Oh, wait, what do I have down here? Oh, yeah, down here to, by the way, if you look at here, the Paracom universe, here's the Paracay universe. Now, there's a shift here. There's a 90-degree axis shift. If you think of the Deca, right? You have this one as a cathode grid running vertical, and that one running horizontal. So that's your 90-degree shift there. So you'd actually have the shifts across the void. You'd have 90 degrees between each one of them. This helps with trying to steer your marker, though, but we're not worried about that. I'm going from here to up here. This is another one that I'm just showing the same thing. What this one shows is once you know that information about the breakout on the dimensions themselves, you can also then understand if you have a male body or a female body in the particle or antiparticle universe, what it means about how your Merkabas are supposed to spin. And spin is about, whether it's male or female, tells you everything. It means if it's female, it's counterclockwise, it's uridominant, which means it would have the 11 2/3 mammae instead. It tells you the polarity and the spin rotation. And when you know that, you can tell what it comes out in nature. The fact that if you're a male in the particle universe, that means you have within the Christos seed atom, the monad, which would be D13 counterclockwise. Everybody in this universe would have a core female monad, but males would have a clockwise one put in there. So it would change. Their polarity balance is all the way down. When you get to D2, it would be a male. And that's good, because if it wasn't, you would be walking around in a female body. You have a male body at D2 if you have a male monad, and you have a female body at D2 if you have a female monad. And not just D2, but D2, D5, D8, D11, all the way up the stack. When people get problems with real gender twisting in their energy fields, it has to do with these getting mismatched, where you can have a male soul incarnating in a female body if you have the Merkabas going the wrong way. There are things done on this planet to force all sorts of unnatural blendings that way. That doesn't mean that there's a problem with males and males, females and females coming together, but there are certain considerations with the Merkaba fields that one needs to understand if they're going to reach unaffiliated together. There's also certain advantages that this is why it's been repressed for so long, why there's been such a campaign against being gay, whether you're male or female, because there were ancient things that was natural. I mean, there are some people who are that way, and it's not a bad thing, doesn't mean something's wrong with them. And that goes all the way up to conventional scale. But there are certain types of combining frequency that could be done in that way. And if you think of it, take the body parts away here, and imagine that what homosexuality would look like on, say, tends to be 4, where they're not really even in bodies anymore. They're like liquid light bodies, all right? So we're not talking about, genitalia anymore. We're talking about beautiful balls of light coming together in special ways. They can run huge frequency. They can blend their consciousness and know each other from the inside out. This is really what it's about, whether you're heterosexual or homosexual. But when there's unnatural distortions, particularly if you get half and half, we've been in a blended Merkaba field on this planet since, I believe it was 50,000 BC, that was started? No, it started on 25,500. And what it's done is create half of us male and half of us female in the wrong proportions in the same body, and it shut down the natural motor centers, which would normally balance those frequencies back out and bring the Merkabas back in a natural alignment. But all of this information is derived from understanding just a bit about the monad. When we were in the shadow workshop, we got more detail on the monadic graphs that we had released, I believe, we released that envelope or passes, I forget. But we got more information on it. Yeah, we'll start here. Oh, here we go. Now we're going to slow down a little. Okay. Well, this is the perfected version of the graph that I still can't remember where the Phillies do their I think it was in Paxos. Yeah, it was originally in Paxos, and it was the Paxos package came through with a tentative. I'm not even going to do a whole chart pack for you guys right now because this is so complicated. Some of this information I have to check it before I release it and say this is the way it is. So there's like, tentatively, this is how things look. But I wasn't sure because there was so much more data to analyze. This is the analyzed form. This tells you the crystal code. It starts with a 360-degree circulation or thrust of energy. That is the echo. The echo replicates its own thrust and projects it in 4 equal directions, projecting 90 degrees of the 13 thrust to each of the beckets. This begins the creation of the universal crystal seed atoms. What happens next is the 90s replicate. They keep the 90 there. They break down part of the other 90 to replicate and keep 45 of it here as the rheon field. And then break the other 2 parts into a trion field at 33 1/3 clockwise, positive charge, and 11 2/3 counterclockwise, negative charge. Now if you notice, they differ from each one. Each one has the first levels of polarity are here, where you get your first seed atoms, and they would have 90 charge. And you have 2 that are positive, the part of crown molecule and the part of K field, density field. And we have our part of K, crown molecule, it has a negative charge, meaning counterclockwise spin, D1390, and we have a negative one as well. Now this is extremely important information because this determines how this particular sphere frequency will move. It's moving counterclockwise. Our D13 seed atom moves counterclockwise here, and that creates, down the next level, it creates a current of energy that spins the Ure frequency down this way. I want to polarize this list of Na frequency down this way. And when these hit and they come together, they put the 33 1/3 Na and 11 2/3 Ure back together again and continually replicate the 45 spark of the rheon field. And this is the reason why we can ascend all the way back up again, is because you can take that spark, activate that frequency in the body, recombine it with the other 45 and make the 90 and make your climb outward. But it's because these 2 intersect, these 2 currents intersect at a very precise angle, that it is set in perpetual motion, where this sphere spins this way and this sphere spins that way. And this one, the first one, spins how the first 90 was broken down. They're all very balanced, and they're all able to perpetually regenerate the 45 spark, so they're perpetual motion, like in sound fields. And you cannot get that with a Metatronic code Merkaba. You cannot get that if you were... now, why do you think they might be aiming for a 55 spin? What might that override? Right. And if you're interested in spiraling a Merkaba shield out far enough where it can actually, the shield can be used as an entrapment field. It entraps a certain amount of energy that is the same as, if it spins at a certain rate, it will have a diameter of shield at that rate, and it will trap that much frequency from the unified field at that rate. So when it begins, which actually it's 55, I'll talk about this a bit later, it would literally be able to progressively entrap the 45 and begin the whole process of making a black hole spiral, clearly taking down the Rebecca and the Anchor-Sysman. That's a very nice thing to do. But when we get back to Merkaba and Christic Merkaba, which is what we teach, this is the key here to understanding how all the other polarities line up. And it's also the key to understanding how the axes of Merkaba line up. What's interesting about, okay, where do the spirals come from when they come down into the densities? If we have the 33 1/3 light field here, 11 2/3 sound field over here, and then the 45 rheon field, 0 charge here, these frequencies right in this space here, I mean, like over here, this would be almost like a membrane between, let's say, frequency bubbles or frequency spheres. But right in this space, the movement of these currents not only regenerates 45, but as it regenerates it, it sends it into here. And it creates a counterclockwise moving field. Not counterclockwise, a field that moves counter to the monad. Now, we talked about deflection fields before, where if you have something that is like a shield that is rotating clockwise, it would create a deflection field or a kickback field that would be counterclockwise. So the counterclockwise monad and its spinning sphere creates this smaller kickback field here. It's clockwise. This is a D12 time blueprint. Right? That's why, even though we have a female universe, we have a male D12 Christos divine blueprint. And when you take that down, that creates a D11 female and a D10 male. Now that density 4 sets the whole 4 pattern that's going to be used all the way down to densities. What it means is that the D12 is not the Gruol. You remember how we talked about the Gruol signets in each of the shields? We have like a shield as D1, 2, and 3, and it's number 2. It's the center column ones, right? So whatever your D13 is, determines what your D12 is going to be as its opposite. The D12 determines what the D11 is going to be. And the D11 is the first controlling Gruol, all right? Because if you look at D1, 2, and 3, it's the same thing up there, D10, 11, and 12. That means that you would have the central column with its Gruol centers, receiving centers, spinning counterclockwise all the way down. So there's these are very specific mechanics, and these are the mechanics we've been teaching and using. What's interesting too is in this reality field here, where we get the spirals are the spinning of this one that's going clockwise, right? This is the 33 and a third prime light field that was going, or trion field that was going clockwise. This one generates the bottom spiral on the universal level. Its deflection field, the opposite. See, spirals will have the seal that holds the spiral here will spin in the opposite direction of the spiral. So if you look at this as the seal that's holding this, that creates this vortex, it's spinning clockwise, so the bottom spirals become counterclockwise. And over here, 33 and a third, 11 and 2/3 creates a 33 and a third top spiral. These are connected, the fields go together, and they're connected at the center by the monad, by the natural Christos monad, with the holds the 13 charge. Now, what the other guys are doing, they're doing 13 monads too, but they're doing them in reverse. They're spinning them in the opposite direction of polarity than they're supposed to be, and they're spinning them at an axis angle that is not natural. That axis angle is meant to allow them to be forced to link through the background. So you can literally force a merger between parallel and partichrome universe in an unnatural reverse way that allows you to generate black holes. A lot of the technologies, even the Atlantean technologies, were based on black hole technology, where they had what they called tandem reverse technologies, where to create a spaceship that would go a certain way here, they had to create one of equal and opposite force and move them in reverse tandem in the parallel universe. So, and it's really funny. I've heard a couple of people that, like in the last couple of years, they were talking about their experiences with ETs and abduction, and they were all excited because the ETs rays were teaching them about how they had to build their spaceships and how they had to build one over in the parallel as well so they could link them together. Well, guess what they were using? This is not the natural thing you have to do. These Merkabas are self-sustaining. The spark continually regenerates frequency on a cyclic basis to recharge the seed atom. This is where we go through the barrow and equaline cycles, where the gate system's open, the echo opens in the core, and you get another burst of frequency from here. There's a whole timing that goes with this that's absolutely mind-boggling. I don't know if I'll ever get to the point to get it all the way down, like from the top all the way down to density 1 where we are. But what we can get enough information about is beginning to understand what we mean when we say the cosmic clock. Because we have those universal, this is set your D12 Merkaba. Okay, this is your D12 Merkaba, which is your divine blueprint Merkaba. Right? So you don't have, in this system, you have 33 and a third on top electrical, and you have 11 and 2/3 on bottom magnetic, and you have a 21 and 2/3 clockwise, what's called the differential field, or the shield. And that's how much energy is actually available to expand into manifestation within this Merkaba field, the universal Merkaba field. So it's very, very mechanical. Creation is very mechanical. It's still very beautiful because of the mechanics of consciousness as well as the mechanics of energy. But there is a design to it. And if people are teaching Merkaba without teaching you the context that it exists within, they're definitely either trying to hide something or they don't know enough to be teaching Merkaba. Because this is the context that exists within. There's no way in heaven life would have been to this. And now I didn't know, oh my God, what was that? Wait, was it left or right? That translates from this. So this diagram and the understanding of the information that's on here begins to set the framework for understanding the hard diagrams. The ones that will show us a bit more about the cosmic cloud. This was the diagram from heaven that felt like the diagram from hell. If I can explain this without reading it, I'll be amazed. Yeah. Now, that shows you the information basically that is here. The one we just saw. Okay. This would be the monadic core. I should take this one slow, I really did. But these are part of the universe. Right? And it has its light field, 33 1/3, and sound field, 11 2/3. And it's D13, counterclockwise. See that? Now these are also D13 fields. Alright, so it's a D13 charge that was broken down into 3 pieces. So together they're considered the local monad. When you put them all together, you get the universal monad or the universal backup monad. Now, this gets interesting because if we look at these things, we look at the diagram that was before, and you don't see that stuff around it. This is where you start to get the idea of clocks, so of how things tick. Alright, we have the monads that we saw in the other diagram. But they exist within this big shield here that's called the Eka shield. The Eka shield is huge, even though the Eka is very small. The Eka, this one, would actually be here at the center. And from the center, the Eka spins because it has its parameter field spins. So its natural north axis, its starting point, north axis, is up here at a 45-degree angle. If we're looking at it from here, and here's where you start to go nuts, because from what perspective? Is it going right or left? From what perspective? Is it up or down? Or, I mean, it's enough to twist your mind in knots. Yeah, but I finally got it, at least for it's coherent. Now, so this is the center spinning here. This, if we recall, is a cathodic grid, right? It's the Eka cathodic grid. And at its center, there's the Amaraya flame, the eternal flame that comes down from the next level, the Akasha level. And that is the living connection to God's source. It goes all the way up as the central pillar flame. It's a standing pillar of spiraling consciousness and eternal energy that spirals into and then back out of creation. It's kind of funny because if you remember the spirals, if you have same spin spiral sets, what you do is you can either inhale or exhale, but you couldn't do both properly. And it means that the energy wouldn't be able to go back up to source, which means ascension wouldn't be possible. And if ascension wasn't possible, it means source would eventually put all itself into expansion and blow itself up. And that's what happens to anti-Christian Merkabahs. They eventually blow themselves up and then implode and become black holes, actually. I won't go into that right now. Go back to this. This is the beginning of the cosmic clock, of understanding where it starts. Because we have it, it goes all the way down. If you think of, well, actually it goes all the way up first. So think about the Akasha Aya level, first level of creation, the first crystal crystalline grids. Right? There's the setup too, up there on that level. And in it you have the 12 U-shaped pillars and how they arc to get the spinning of the Merkaba started in the first place and that kind of thing. Now when you get down to this level, the Eka level, this is how a local universe in this parallel will be created. So you have your monad at the core, you have the Eka field itself at the core, but the Eka shield is massive, because if you remember, the Eka is contained within the larger Akasha Merkaba. Alright, Merkaba Cathara at the top of the Tribeca Merkaba forms. So there's, even though it's a tiny little thing in the center, it also has the large, if you can look at the Eka as the crystalla of the Christ grid on the next level up. So it has a massive shield spinning. And it's within that shield that the monads for the Beka are formed. What gets really crazy, I'll show you, all of these things spin. The Eka spins, the Beka shield spins, because you have the Eka shield here, you have the Eka itself spinning here. Actually, the Eka spins clockwise here, and it spins clockwise here. But what that does is sort of kick that field that makes this part, the holes of Beka coding, spin counterclockwise. Now, when you look at this, like, where is north? Right, southeast, west, right? Like if you know you're supposed to keep your Merkaba pointed true north, where the heck is that in here? Well, if we look at it again, this would be the Becker systems, right? The particle universe, the particle universe, the particle primal life field, and the particle primal life field. North is where the monad is, right? So with each of these, north for this system is what connects to the monad in the anda. All right? So that means this would be north at the top, and that would be south at the bottom. I'm not even going to try to explain right now how we get east and west. I fought with that for about 2 hours, and I finally got it, and I forget what exactly I did, but it was like, that's the pattern. That's why it works that way. So somewhere, I think in a small print either here or on the scribble paper that I didn't incorporate yet. But to get north and south, first we establish that. Because what that's establishing is the vertical axes of the Merkaba fields, the primary Merkaba fields. It's also establishing the vertical axes of the parameter field, sphere of energy, that forms around it, and of the smaller radial bodies and manifestation areas that form within it. So here's what we start to get our series within spheres at different angles to each other. Okay? So you have the particle universe with north and this angle. You go up here to the primal life field, and part of K, and its north is there too, which means its south is up, right? Which means its top Merkaba spiral is down. Right? The top Merkaba spirals in each one plug in. However, 2 of them are the electrical ones. They would have the female counterclockwise D13 monads. Then you have the top spirals of the part of K universe. This is why a long time ago I said, well, the part of K1 top spiral is magnetic and its bottom is electric. This is why, all right? Because it has the positive charge electrical D13 monad, and that generates the opposite D12 top counterclockwise spinning shield, D12 shield, and top Merkaba spiral. And this over here, the particle universe has the same configuration as the particle universe light field has the same configuration as the particle universe density field, and vice versa. So this at least begins to start to see where our north axes are formed. Now the north axes are what are called the staff of the Merkaba, and like the rod and the staff thing. Right? They are the staff. They are the vertical column that spirals energy down through the Merkaba and through the manifestation and feeds the manifestation. While the bottom spiral, they actually have frequency that spirals up and out. The bottom spiral would go with the next one down. Now, which would be the 11 on here. It's interesting up here because here you have D12, all right? The D13, see that? Creates the D12 shield going in the opposite way. There's a divine blueprint spinning clockwise. Right? But up here, it gets even more confusing because this is D14. It creates a replicate 13. So if you look at Pythagoras, it's like, wait a minute, you have D12 at the top here, so the equivalent of D12 there should be D13, shouldn't it? Because 14 is equivalent to number 2 on the Pythagoras. It's really confusing when you're buying them. But it's because there's a replicate D13 shield created, and they're actually all centered, all of this is centered in the academic plane. So this is like spreading it out so you can see where the relationships between one. But in truth, all of this is in the same place, spheres within spheres, Pythagoras within Pythagoras at different angles of projection of light. And it's really about light and sound waves and electromagnetic waves bouncing off each other while spinning, while within a group of spherical ellipses, actually. We won't even get into the ellipses now, but there's a squish effect that happens because of the fact that they're in the same place, that there's a pulling in at the equatorial poles and on a normal Merkaba when you put the parallel grid and the particle grid over each other. So we haven't even gotten into that. We'll deal with spheres within spheres for now, but realize there are eggs within eggs, which become spirals within spirals. So that's another level. Then first, let's try to understand the spheres within spheres. Now, remember, each Merkaba creates within it a sphere manifestation field, spherical and egg-shaped. It starts out spherical, actually, and then progressively expands out. If you look at our orbits around the sun, the ones closest to the sun are almost circular, and then they progressively stretch out more and more as they go. You can think of an egg, how the yolk is quite circular, but then somehow the egg stretches out and becomes egg-shaped. So there's effects, mathematical effects that have to do with natural It's probably the golden mean spiral. I haven't researched that yet, but the one that goes inward and outward forever. That the Medtronic spiral is an attempt to mimic, but it can't. And the explanation I read someplace, I won't say where, was because nature doesn't know how to create things without beginnings or endings. Do you believe that was in one of their books? Oh, really? Maybe your nature doesn't. Anyway. So, I mean, when you get into the golden mean stuff, you get into heavy mathematics, you know, like angles and all of that stuff. And I really have never met a person who had a huge inkling for math. I don't particularly like it much. It drives me bananas. But when I'm trying to do this stuff is, you know, progressively more challenging. But at least we see here, all right, now this looks flat, but if we think about it, first we have the Eka shield, okay? Now, this is Eka north, okay? That's Eka south. This would be the Akasha level, right, the next one up. This would actually be a sphere itself, with its north up here, and its south down here. This running through here would be the rod, and it would be, the rod directs the shield spin, okay? So the rod in this one is going clockwise, and it would be spinning the ball clockwise. And that's the Eka sphere. That's where, if we get good at this and then we get through the gates, that's where we get to go. We get to go out of this local celestial bubble and the planet that's in it, and into another system of them. So we have that sphere. Within that sphere, we have, these are actually spheres as well, the seed atoms, and it's hard to, you couldn't really draw it without going inside and outside, drive yourself crazy. These aren't outside, they're actually inside seed atoms. So it's like inside, 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 instead of going out from itself. It's going in and expanding within itself. That's the inner versus the outer route concept, right? So these are inside those, but what you have, again, are spheres. I didn't even draw the radial body spheres, that are the primary fields that would be around these right now. So enough to know there's a Merkaba field, there's your staff, there's your rod, there's your disc shield spinning. This one happens to be clockwise at each side, and there is the equivalent energy ball within which the manifestation is taking place at the center. And you've got that going, so you have 4 balls. It takes us over to this side. Can you go to this side, please? Yeah, this one is fine. So these 4, if you realize that there is a sphere around each of these Merkabas, and also the sets of spheres within them that will follow these rotations. We look at the 14 fields and the 12 fields, which are the first ones that were created off of the 13 fields. You have balls of energy, spheres of energy. These spheres of energy are part of the Vecca portion of the template that, in response to the Eka rotating clockwise on its axis, and its axis slowly shifting this way, which means the parameter field is going clockwise, the Beckett shield goes counterclockwise. It triggers in the counterclockwise reflex. So this shield here is another bubble of energy that's going counterclockwise that these spheres are embedded within. So as this is going clockwise, this is going counterclockwise. This is the axis that this ball, the Eka ball, is spinning. This is the axis that the, actually no, this is the axis. This gets really interesting. Here's where you get front and back as well. This is the axis where the Vecca shield is spinning from. The north is here in the Eka. Right, so that's a ball with its north there, and it's rotating clockwise. Now, when we get here, where is north? Say up here? No. This is north for the Vecca, which means it's like this. The Merkaba is like this, right? So it's plugging in up into the Akasha, which ends up giving you a front and a back, as well as a north-south, east and west. And you have these spheres that their axes, the north is up here for this one, so it's not up here. So again, you can see them, yeah, these are going this way. This one's going clockwise this way, this one's going counterclockwise this way. Each of them has a different axis orientation. Now, if you have this spinning sphere going that way, this spinning sphere going that way, they have a different, standing up angle, and these spinning spheres going their own ways within it. That gives you a condition, a situation, where at the same points